A monumental Supreme Court decision is on the horizon, one that could fundamentally alter the landscape of American government. The justices are preparing to redefine the very limits of presidential power, a question that strikes at the heart of the nation's checks and balances. At the center of this historic case is whether former President Trump exceeded his authority by invoking an emergency law to impose sweeping tariffs on foreign goods, bypassing the usual legislative process. The outcome will ripple through the U.S. economy, affect global trade relations, and test the balance of power carefully crafted by the Constitution's framers. At stake is a crucial question. Can a president use the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA, to sidestep Congress and unilaterally set tariffs that impact millions? The justices have listened to passionate arguments from both sides, and now the nation waits anxiously for a ruling that could set a legal precedent for generations to come. If the court upholds the tariffs, it could open the door for future presidents to wield emergency powers more broadly, potentially shifting the balance of power toward the executive branch. But if the court strikes down the tariffs, it could force a dramatic rethinking of U.S. trade policy, trigger massive government refunds, and limit the president's ability to act swiftly in times of crisis. This case is about far more than a single tariff dispute. It's about the fundamental rules and principles that govern America's democracy and the separation of powers. The Supreme Court's decision will shape how future presidents and Congress approach not only economic policy, but also the use of emergency powers in times of uncertainty. The world is watching closely as the Supreme Court prepares to draw new boundaries for executive power, setting the stage for how America will be governed in the years ahead. To understand this case, we need to look at the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, or IEEPA. This law, though not widely known outside legal circles, has played a surprisingly large role in shaping U.S. economic policy in recent years. Passed in 1977, IEEPA was originally designed for true national security emergencies, such as freezing the assets of hostile regimes or responding to international threats. Lawmakers at the time wanted to give the president the ability to act quickly in moments of crisis, but they also intended for its use to be rare and carefully limited. Decades later, the Trump administration invoked IEEPA to declare a sweeping trade emergency, using it to impose tariffs on goods from a wide range of countries, including some of America's closest allies. This marked a dramatic expansion of how the law was used, shifting it from a tool for national security to one for economic leverage. Critics argue this was never the law's intent. They accuse the administration of sidestepping Congress's constitutional authority to set taxes and tariffs, warning that such actions undermine the balance of power between the branches of government. Supporters, on the other hand, claim the president needs flexible tools to protect American industries from unfair foreign competition, especially in a rapidly changing global economy. Opponents warn this sets a dangerous precedent. If any economic issue can be labeled an emergency, the president could potentially create new taxes or tariffs without congressional approval, fundamentally altering the way economic policy is made in the U.S. The legal battle now centers on a crucial question: what actually counts as a national emergency under IEEPA? The answer could reshape the limits of presidential power for years to come. Is a trade deficit or a disagreement over trade policy truly enough to unlock vast presidential powers? Or does this stretch the law beyond its original purpose? The Supreme Court must now decide. Is IEEPA a precise tool for genuine crises, or has it become a blank check for executive action? Their ruling will have lasting consequences for the separation of powers and the future of American trade policy. This case reached the Supreme Court after years of lawsuits from importers and business groups seeking billions in tariff refunds. Their lawyers argue the president cannot invent new taxes alone. The government claims IEEPA gives the president broad discretion to address national threats, including economic ones. In oral arguments, justices press the government on the limits of this power. Could a president impose a national sales tax without Congress? The court's skepticism signals concern about unchecked executive authority. The outcome will affect not just the parties in court, but thousands of businesses and workers nationwide. Some industries and unions support the tariffs, believing they protect American jobs. The Supreme Court's decision will set a precedent for decades. The legal world and the business world await the final word. Who decides how America trades? The Constitution gives Congress the power to regulate commerce and set taxes. Historically, Congress set tariffs through debate and legislation. Over time, some authority was delegated to the president, but with limits. Critics argue the president overstepped, taking Congress's power for a self-declared emergency. Defenders say the president needs agility to respond to global economic threats, and Congress intended this flexibility. The Supreme Court's ruling will clarify the balance of power between Congress and the White House. A decision for the administration could expand presidential authority. A decision against reaffirms Congress's role. The line between executive and legislative power is about to be redrawn. The Supreme Court's decision will ripple through the economy and your wallet. Striking down the tariffs could force the government to refund billions, creating a sudden budget hole and possibly raising interest rates. Higher government borrowing could mean more expensive loans for Americans. Eliminating tariffs could lower prices on imported goods, easing inflation and helping families. Businesses might see relief, passing savings to consumers. The uncertainty has already slowed investment and economic growth. A final ruling will bring clarity, but the nature of that clarity matters. Upholding tariffs could lead to more aggressive trade policies. Striking them down could cause short-term fiscal chaos. The economic consequences are complex, with winners and losers on both sides. This isn't just a legal debate. It's about real people whose daily lives are shaped by decisions made far from their homes and businesses. Small business owners across the country have faced tough choices. Either absorb the extra costs from tariffs themselves, which can eat into already thin profit margins, or raise prices and risk losing loyal customers to bigger competitors or online retailers. For families, the impact is felt every time they shop. Everyday goods, from backpacks and school supplies to laptops and kitchen appliances, have all become more expensive as tariffs drive up prices, stretching household budgets even further. For some, removing tariffs could mean real financial relief, lower bills, more affordable essentials, and a little less stress at the end of each month. But for workers in industries like steel and manufacturing, tariffs are seen as job savers. They help level the playing field against foreign competition, protecting American jobs and entire communities that depend on these industries. A ruling to eliminate tariffs could threaten jobs in these sectors, leading to layoffs, uncertainty, and hardship for families who rely on these paychecks. The decision will create both winners and losers. Some will feel relief and new opportunities, while others may face fresh challenges and difficult adjustments. The impact will ripple across the country, touching port cities, factory towns, and farming regions in different ways. Each community will experience the effects uniquely, depending on their local industries and economies. The Supreme Court's ruling will rebalance these forces, setting new rules that will shape the economic landscape for years to come. It's a powerful reminder that high court decisions don't just stay in the courtroom. They reach into the homes, workplaces, and lives of everyday Americans, shaping the future for all of us. Legal experts warn this case could fundamentally shift the balance of power in government. If the court validates using emergency powers for tariffs, future presidents might bypass Congress on a wide range of issues. The principle of no taxation without representation is at stake. Critics fear a president could declare emergencies on almost any economic issue, imposing taxes or seizing assets without Congress. Even those who support strong executive tools urge Congress to clarify the law, not rely on creative reinterpretation. The Supreme Court's decision will either rein in or unleash executive power, with far-reaching consequences. The stakes for American democracy are enormous. If the court rules the tariffs illegal, the government could owe tens of billions in refunds to importers. Major companies have already filed claims, tracking every dollar paid. The government says refunds would be complex, but importers argue the data is all recorded and refunds could be processed electronically. U.S. Customs has modernized its systems, preparing for possible mass refunds. The total could exceed $100 billion, hitting the federal treasury hard. Businesses would welcome the cash, but the government faces a budget crunch. The refund question highlights the massive financial stakes of this case. The outcome will affect both the private sector and public finances. Whatever the Supreme Court decides, the story isn't over. Even if IEEPA tariffs are struck down, trade tensions and political motivations remain. The administration could pursue tariffs through other legal channels, keeping uncertainty alive for businesses. Companies face challenges planning for the future amid unpredictable trade policy. This case is about more than tariffs. It's a debate over the limits of presidential power and America's role in the global economy. The Supreme Court's decision is a turning point, but not the final word. The questions raised will echo in Congress, campaigns, and communities nationwide. How should power be balanced between president and Congress? The debate continues, shaping America's future.